Friendships and relationships can change as we grow. People grow apart, or we realize that we're not as close as we were before or as we once thought. And today I'm going to share how to navigate those shifts in a way that can bring more ease into your life. Hey there, I'm Kathleen, and I help women navigate life and career transitions with more ease and less chaos. And if you're new to my channel, here we talk about lifestyle, entrepreneurship, and faith. And this video is part of a series I'm calling The 8 Keys to a Soft Life. And we're talking about friendships and relationships and how they can change when we go through changes in our own lives, careers, and businesses. And this is definitely something that we all experience, but we don't always talk about. So let's get into it. Friendships and relationships naturally change over time. When we go through different life experiences or when we, navigate changes in our work, in our businesses, or in our careers, or just in general, that can also change what we need from our friends. And as you expand, your relationships shift. You start to lean in and gravitate towards people who are aligned with where you are now or where you're going or in your new season. And it's completely normal to have different levels of friendships or to want to have different levels of friendships. And I'll talk a little bit more about what different levels of friendships can look like later in the video. And again, as our priorities change, it can feel uncomfortable to know that some of our old friendships and relationships no longer fit where we are, or it no longer fits where we're going. And that doesn't mean that you have to cut everybody off. That doesn't mean that those friends are bad or those friendships and connections are bad. It just means that you're evolving and that life is evolving. And that's completely normal. Some people may not even understand as you step into a soft life what it means to live a life with more ease and less chaos. They might not want to, or they might not understand, why would you say no to a lot of things that we're conditioned to want? And that's okay because living a soft life is about letting relationships, friendships, connections flow naturally. And it's about keeping people close to you who support where you are and where you're going and releasing any guilt about kind of changing the proximity or the closeness of certain people in your life. Maybe there are certain people in your life who you call a friend who maybe they're not actually your friend. And we'll talk more about that too. And, when you're stepping into a new chapter or shifting from one place to another, whether that's mentally or physically, you need people who are on similar journeys. You need to have that community and that connection. Like, we all need that support. And that's actually one of the questions to ask yourself before making any type of shift. Do I have support? What does support look like? And I think there are 4 other key questions to ask before making a shift. And all these questions you can find in my free transition guide, which if you sign up for my free newsletter on Substack, you'll be able to download a copy of that guide also for free. So check out the description box for a link to subscribe. Now, when it comes to different relationships and friendships, I do think a lot of us are too quick to name people or call people friend instead of using like a different term like associate or colleague or someone that I know. Or we might think that we're closer to someone than we actually are, or they might not see us as close as we see them. And I think that that's where a lot of disappointment happens, a lot of conflict, a lot of disagreements, because we might have an expectation of somebody who we consider a friend, but maybe their definition of friendship is different, or maybe they don't see us as a friend in the same way that we see them. And I do think it's also important to kind of categorize your friends and have different levels of friendship. So for me, some of the levels or categories that I use are social media friends, work friends or professional friends, associates or outer circle friends, and then inner circle friends or group chat friends. Let's talk about each type of friendship. So social media connections are people who you might meet on social media. You may or may not even meet them in your regular real life. You might not know your social media friends. And sometimes your social media friends are the ones who support you more than people who know you in real life. Like, think about if you follow a creator or an entertainer on social media, you might feel connected to them or part of their general community based on what they share. I think that's called parasocial relationships. And the same goes for you if you're a creator for business or for entertainment. Some of the people who support you on social media, your social media friends, they could become future clients, customers, supporters, or maybe true friends in other ways in the future. And I think The level of effort with this category of friends is to engage when it feels natural, but don't force it. Now, business or work friends are people who you meet while working, whether that's in your own business, in your 9 to 5, or in other professional settings, like in co-working spaces or meetings or events or conferences related to your industry. And you might have a good rapport with your work friends. You probably have things in common, but you probably keep conversations surface level or mostly just about work and opportunities in business or networking and things like that. And you might even introduce them to other people as a colleague or a peer. For these types of friendships, definitely enjoy the friendship for what it is because obviously you probably have something in common, but try not to make it more than what it is. Oftentimes your work friend is just a work friend. Now, casual associates or outer circle friends are people who you might actually refer to as friends. You might call them friends, but they're not super close friends. These are people who you might text regularly, or you might go to brunch together or other events together. They're most likely invited to birthday parties or other events that you might host, but they probably don't know your deepest secrets. They might not know like some of the things you're working on. They may or may not know some of your goals, but these are genuinely people that you enjoy their company. So with these friends, enjoy their company, have fun with these friends, but there's still like things about you that they just don't know. But at the end of the day, they're still people who you call friends. And that brings us to your inner circle or your group chat friends. Now, this is usually the smallest group or circle or level of friendships that you'll have. It could even just be one other person, and that's okay. But the people who are in your inner circle, they're the people who you share everything with. There's mutual trust. Whether you talk to them every single day, multiple times a week, or whether you are only able to talk a few times a year because life be life in, life is busy. These are the people who you have walked through the valley with and back up the mountain. These are the people who you trust with your secrets, who you might share your goals with, the people who you might have shared goals and interests with. These are your core relationships, and these are the friendships. These are the people who you genuinely want to keep close to you, and they're the ones who naturally bring ease into your life. They support you, they hold you down, they hold you accountable, and they bring a lot of joy. And you do the same for them. And the thing about friendship levels is that you can change where people fit in your life and they can do the same. Someone who was an inner circle friend to you might become a distant social media friend someday. Or a work friend could become an outer circle friend or even an inner circle group chat friend, but probably not when you're still working together. Now, something I've noticed is that everyone's not going to support you living a softer life, and that's where friendship levels might change because some people may have preferred to see you stressed or overworked because it gave them a certain level of comfort or control. For some people, it makes them uncomfortable to see someone living differently, even if that different way of living is a softer life with more ease and less chaos. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you have to change because your soft life is really for you, but just understand that that's where friendship levels might change. If somebody benefits from you being overworked and you start living with more ease and less chaos, they might not be as close a friend to you anymore. And at the end of the day, it's your life to live. So you get to decide who stays in your life and who doesn't, and in what capacity. Are they in your group chat? Do you invite them to parties? Do you only see them at social events? Or are you simply social media connections? It's really your choice. And I actually wrote more about this topic on Substack, especially about how to grieve friendships as they change and as we grow. So that post is free to read, and I'll leave a link in the description box if you're interested in checking that out. Now, part of my story is that I've been through a number of different life and career transitions within a 10-year period, give or take. And with each major change, my friendships changed too. There was one friendship breakup, and then a lot of like different levels of friendships changing. And one thing I'll say is that I may or may not text certain people who were once inner circle or outer circle. I may not communicate with them as much, but I still root for them from a distance. I'm still cheering for you. I'm still, hoping that you reach your goals and that everything that you wants you back. It's just friendship levels change. Life happens, and what we need from friendships definitely change. Even that friendship breakup that I mentioned, that was really hard, especially because that wasn't really my choice. But it kind of taught me that you can release friendships naturally and respectfully. It doesn't have to be filled with chaos and drama. And at the end of the day, like living a life that's softer with more ease and less chaos, it's about keeping what fits and letting go of what doesn't. And that does include people. So as much as that friendship breakup, I mean, it was hard, but I also respected that at the end of the day, I wasn't somebody who she wanted in her life anymore. We didn't need to be close anymore. And I think a lot of us go through friendship breakups when we go through a lot of big changes in life. Like we would hope that our friendships would all stay the same, but they don't. And that's okay. And there's also someone in my life who I thought that we were close, but she introduced me to someone as a colleague, and that kind of surprised me. But it also is an example of how sometimes we might think we're closer to someone than they see us. And sometimes people don't want more friends or they don't want more close friends. Like you might want to be close friends with someone, but they might not have the capacity for that. And then sometimes our friendships and what we need from friendships change, especially as women. I hear about a lot of friendships with women changing after a woman gets married, and especially after women have kids. I hear a lot about that. And something that I've always wanted and needed in all of my friendships and connections is to be around like-minded people, especially like-minded women. But what's interesting is that with every life experience or change that I've gone through, any transition, what it means to be like-minded kind of shifts. It has kind of changed for me. And everybody doesn't grow at the same pace. Now, that doesn't mean that, just cut everybody off. I actually don't think you need to cut people off. I think it really is about changing the level of friendship. Now, there are times when you do need to cut people off, and there are times where people think that they need to cut you off. And I mean, at the end of the day, you have to respect that. But I do think that most of the time, we don't need to cut people all the way off. We just need to change the access that we give them. If you're new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe. Like I said, this video is part of a series called The 8 Keys to a Soft Life. So if you haven't already, make sure that you check out those other videos. If you have any ideas or suggestions for content that you'd like to see on my channel, let me know in the comments. And don't forget, when you subscribe to my free newsletter on Substack, you'll get a copy of my free transition guide, which will help you assess where you are in your transition and 5 key questions to ask before making a shift, all for free. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.